Hello again from Southeast Michigan. It's cold and rainy and very fall-like outside, but it's warm here in my garage workshop. This is video update number 4 on my Sling TSi build. I thought it hasn't been that long since the last update, but quite a bit has happened since then, so I thought I would go ahead and give another update. I've just about wrapped up the engine as far as I can take it at this point, so I thought I would spend most of the time talking about that. Very briefly recap, this is Sling TSi serial number 445SK. I received it back in April 23, so I've been working on it for 20 months. I've logged 1,554 hours. Again, quite a bit more perhaps than what Sling says it should take, but then I guess I'm just kind of slow. Plus this is my first time and I'm just really taking my time. I'm going to focus on all the pieces that I've added to the engine on firewall forward. That's the main thing I'll be talking about in this video. I mentioned last time about oil lines and coolant lines. You can see them here. They're the ones that are silver. That everything has to be insulated. So you can see they're all wrapped here. And the bottom line here is a coolant line, and the rest of these are all oil lines going into the oil tank. This engine is a dry sump style engine, so everything comes out of the tank that you can see here. While I'm in the area, you can see on the firewall, I've got the electrical pieces in. This fuse panel was there before, but now it's all wired up. The main contactor is right above it. So when the master switch is thrown, that closes and the entire airplane is energized. This box is kind of interesting. It's part of the Rotax system. What it actually is the engine has two alternate, well actually they're generators, and then in this box that current is rectified to AC, and there's two sides to it. This side is the engine side, it runs strictly the engine, and this side is for the airframe, runs the whole airplane, avionics, etc. They are designed to fail over if there should ever be a generator failure, so they protect each other, and if both fail, it will fail over to the battery, which is located, the main shipboard battery is right here, obviously not installed yet. So again, pretty interesting. There are 2 more batteries installed in the airplane. There's an avionics backup battery on the other side of the firewall, and then one of the instruments, the Garmin G5, has its own backup battery, so lots and lots of redundancy. That's also carried out in the engine, which you can see in every place you look. Basically, everything is doubled up. There's 2 sets of spark plugs, 2 sets of injectors, 2 sets of everything throughout the engine, and the computer decides which side to run totally seamlessly. You don't have to do anything about it. But you can see here on the main fuel rail, there's actually 4 injectors. Back here on the intake, another 4. On this side of the engine, now you can see my fuel lines. So I have the fuel lines installed. This is where the main fuel supply comes into the engine. And then the other side, which I didn't point out when I was over there, is the return line. This is a fuel injected engine, of course. So it has electric fuel pumps, and it's running under pressure all the time, and any excess fuel is returned back to the tanks. Down in this area is where I spent a whole bunch of time putting in all of these fuel lines. These are actually aramid wrapped anti-static PTFE lines. So this manifold down here, which I showed the last time, now has all these connections. So the main fuel from the wing tanks is coming in here, right on this bottom one, and then it goes into the manifold, and then eventually over to the fuel pump, which you can see over there. There's actually 2 fuel pumps in there. One runs all the time, the other one is a backup, which you can switch on. And on the firewall here, we have the reservoir for the brake fluid and another reservoir for coolant, since this engine does have cooled heads, liquid cooled heads. Down in this area I mentioned also before, this is where the intercooler goes. I don't have it because it takes up a lot of space, but you can get a pretty good view of the turbo right there. Sorry about the ugly tape that's on my air cleaner. That keeps me from scratching it up while I've been taking the cowl on and off. This is the main intake for air out of the NACA duct and the cowl. Goes in to the cold side of the turbocharger, spins, comes out, goes to the intercooler, and then goes into the intake. So like I said, all of these fuel lines are now done, and really not much else I can do here. Electrical, coolant, oil lines. These lines are permanent. They should never need to be replaced. The oil lines I mentioned before, those do have a 5-year lifespan. I chose not to put the PTFE in there because they are open and more accessible. Just to go quickly behind the firewall here, you can see where the fuel comes through the firewall, and then it comes up, and then there's a boost pump here. So that goes there, and then the main lines go in to the fuel selector here, and then the lines go down out of there. One goes to the right tank, one goes right wing, left, the other one goes to the left wing. So all of that is now done and in place. I have the throttle cable hooked up, so that's the main throttle to the engine. This other one is the brakes, which are not totally plumbed or don't have any fluid in them yet. Just for grins, I did drop the back seat in there just to see what it looked like. I like it, but it'll be coming out here pretty soon. Down here you can see where the fuel lines come out, and these get hooked up to the tanks that are in the wings. Another matter of interest, I guess, is that in my last video I mentioned that I was still trying to figure out what I would plan to do with the heat and ventilation system. I have pretty much made some decisions. What you're looking at right here is a pretty significant alteration. I took off the T-fitting that was there from Sling, and another builder designed this part. It's a 3D printed part that I've now kind of gotten into 3D printing a little bit. Still very much a beginner at it, but this particular piece that he designed and then I printed on my printer means that this NACA duct here on the top will be only used for cool air or for ventilation. The one outlet will go to the dash, the other one goes into the channel and will go back to the vent that's in the back. There's one on each side, of course. And then I will be separately, it's not installed yet, I'm still working on it, installing heat ducts through the floor. There'll be a channel with 2 outlets in the front and 2 outlets in the back that are strictly for heat. So rather than trying to mix everything with one mixer valve, which apparently based on other people's comments with very limited success, this is going to have cool ventilation on the top that can be shut on and off with the vents on the dash and the vent back here, and then heat, which will go through the floor and can be controlled by controls that are on the instrument panel. And then this is the heat exchanger that uses coolant from the engine to heat the core, which is apparently it's changing. Sling is actually changing their design on their new models, and now are going to be using the hot air exchanger around the muffler. But this is still the old style, if you will, using the liquid cooler. Okay, those are the things I wanted to show, and shows, in my opinion, pretty significant updates. I've got a lot of work to do on the inside, and I met with Midwest Panels this week, and I'm scheduled to have all my wiring harness and avionics installed early next year, and then it's going to be going up to Midwest Sky Sports for painting, final assembly, and first flights. So definitely making progress, but still lots to do. Okay, that's it. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching. Bye.